She didn't even lower her voice when she said it. "Let's break up. I can't spend my youth on someone who has nothing." We were standing outside the bar where she had insisted we go, a place with a line out the door and drinks that cost more than an hour of my wages. I was still holding the heavy oak door open for her, the cold night air biting at my knuckles. My phone buzzed in my pocket at that exact moment. It was a reminder for a rent payment I was already late on. The timing felt almost scripted, like the universe was underlining her point with a red pen. For context, I am Ryan, 27 years old. She is Chloe, 26. We had been together for just over 2 years. That is long enough to share furniture. It is long enough to share passwords. And it is certainly long enough for her to know exactly where to aim if she wanted to dismantle me with a single sentence. She looked at me, her eyes scanning my face not with sadness but with boredom. "You're sweet," she said, tossing the compliment out like a consolation prize. "But I need more, Ryan. I can't wait around for potential anymore. Potential doesn't pay for trips to Chilum. Potential doesn't get us a reservation at 8 p.m. That is when I noticed him. Tall, clean leather jacket, confident posture, standing a little too close for someone who was supposedly just a friend from work. He didn't look uncomfortable witnessing this breakup. He looked like he had been waiting for his cue. He checked his watch, then looked at Chloe, a silent communication passing between them that told me this wasn't a spontaneous decision. This had been planned. I was the last item on a checklist she was clearing before starting her new life. I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I didn't remind her of the nights I worked late or the plans I kept putting off because I was trying to build a career in logistics from the ground up. I didn't scream about the sacrifices I made to pay off her credit card debt 6 months ago. I just nodded. The fight drained out of me instantly, replaced by a cold, heavy realization. "I wish you well," I said. Her eyebrows twitched just for a second, a flicker of confusion. She expected resistance. She expected tears, screaming, a scene she could recount to her friends later to justify why she had to leave the crazy ex. Instead, she laughed under her breath. "See, that's the problem, Ryan. You're too passive. You just let things happen to you." Then she turned, slid her arm through his, and walked away without looking back. I stood there longer than I should have. Long enough to feel the embarrassment heat up my neck despite the freezing wind. Long enough to realize how quiet the city street felt once she was gone. People walked past me, laughing, heading inside to buy expensive drinks, completely unaware that my life had just been upended on the sidewalk. That night I didn't drink. I didn't text my friends to complain. I went home to our apartment, my apartment now, and sat in the silence. I opened my laptop and updated my resume for the first time in months. I told myself it didn't matter. But a part of me, the part that was still bleeding, wondered why she looked so confident walking away. It felt like she thought I would still be standing right there, holding the door, whenever she decided to look back. The first few days after she left were quiet in a way that felt unreal. If you have ever lived with someone and then suddenly found yourself alone, you know the feeling. It is a phantom limb syndrome of the heart. No good morning texts. No passive-aggressive comments about the dishes. No reminders about how I should be doing more, earning more, being more. Just silence. The kind of silence that forces you to sit with yourself whether you like it or not. I replayed her words more than I want to admit. Someone who has nothing. She had said it like a medical diagnosis, not an insult. Like she was simply stating a fact everyone else already knew, and I was the last one to catch on. Chloe had always been good at that, framing cruelty as honesty. She called it tough love. Anytime I pushed back during our relationship, she would sigh and say I was being insecure, that she was just ambitious, and I should be grateful she was motivating me. Motivating, that is a funny word for it. I worked in logistics. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the kind of job you brag about at cocktail parties, but it was stable. I was paying my bills, slowly digging out of student debt, trying to set myself up for something better. Chloe hated that I wasn't flashy about it. She hated that progress with me looked boring. She loved talking about levels and upgrades. She loved pointing out couples on Instagram who traveled every month and wore matching designer outfits, asking why we weren't them yet. She loved reminding me that she was in her prime and that the clock was ticking. Looking back, I should have known how this would end. This is a lesson for anyone listening. If your partner values the aesthetics of success more than the labor required to achieve it, they are not your partner. They are a fan waiting for a better show. Instead of spiraling, I did the only thing that made sense. I stopped talking and started moving. I entered what some people call monk mode. I picked up extra shifts at the warehouse, managing inventory until my eyes blurred. I finished the supply chain certification I had been dragging my feet on because Chloe used to say studying on weekends was antisocial. I cut my spending down to the bone. No bars, no takeout, no subscriptions. Just work, gym, sleep, repeat. I didn't post about it. This is crucial. I didn't post grindset quotes on my story. I didn't tell our mutual friends I was working on myself. I didn't block her either. I didn't need to. Indifference is a much more powerful tool than blocking. 3 days after the breakup, I heard through a friend that she had already posted pictures with him. A rooftop bar, a bottle of champagne that probably cost half my rent, and a caption about knowing your worth. That stung. I won't lie and say I was a robot. It hurt to see her rewrite our history so quickly, but it didn't hurt the way she probably wanted it to. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to prove anything to her. I was trying to make sure I never felt that small again. What I didn't know was that she was watching everything. Even while she was pretending she had already moved on, she was keeping tabs. By the end of the week, I was running on routine instead of emotion. Wake up at 5 a.m. gym. Work, study, sleep. It wasn't some cinematic transformation. There were no motivational speeches in the mirror. Just quiet, boring discipline. The kind that doesn't look impressive from the outside but starts changing the architecture of your life on the inside. That is when Chloe's name popped up on my phone. It wasn't a text. It was a call. 10:30 p.m. on a Friday. I stared at the screen, watching the name Chloe flash against the dark background of my apartment. I didn't answer. I let it ring until it stopped. She didn't try again that night, but the next morning I woke up to 3 missed calls and a voicemail. I didn't listen to it right away. I made coffee first. I did my morning reading. I already knew it wouldn't be an apology. Chloe never apologized. She reframed reality until she was the victim or the hero. Later that day, curiosity got the better of me. I hit play. Her voice came through shaky but controlled, heavily layered with that fake casual tone she used when she wanted something. "Hey, it's me. I just wanted to check in. I heard you've been busy. Give me a call back." Busy? She said it like she was monitoring a project she had already canceled. I heard you've been busy. That meant she had been asking around. She had been polling our mutual friends, fishing for information on how miserable I was. And when the reports came back that I wasn't miserable, that I was just working, it confused her. I didn't call back. That evening, a mutual friend, Sarah, texted me. "Chloe keeps asking what you're up to. She says she's worried about you." Worried. This from the woman who said I had nothing and walked off with another guy like she was trading up a phone plan. If you are enjoying this story and finding value in the reality of building yourself up after being torn down, take a second to subscribe to Story Sparks. We are building a community here focused on resilience, truth, and the stories that actually matter. I found out soon after why she was suddenly interested. The guy she left with, let's call him Mark, it turns out he wasn't the upgrade she thought he was. It is a classic tale. He was loud online, quiet in real life. All flash, no follow-through. He was the kind of guy who posts motivational quotes about hustle, but asks to borrow money for the Uber. He had the leather jacket and the reservations, but he didn't have the character. Funny how fast potential stops matching when it isn't yours anymore. Still, I stayed quiet. No subtweets, no posts, no explanations. That silence must have driven her crazy because 3 nights later my phone rang again. This time I answered, "Ryan," she said quickly, like she was afraid I would hang up. I didn't expect you to disappear like this." "Disappear?" I almost laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "I didn't disappear, Chloe. You walked away." She went quiet, and in that pause I realized something important, something that changed how I viewed the entire relationship. She didn't expect me to build anything. She expected me to stay exactly where she left me. She viewed me as an NPC, a non-playable character in the video game of her life. I was supposed to remain in the starting village, pining for her, while she went off on her adventure. My movement, my growth, was a glitch in her programming. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay," she stammered. "You know, after everything." "I'm fine," I said. "I have to go, I have work." I hung up before she could respond. After that call, I expected things to settle down. They didn't. Chloe started popping up everywhere again, digitally at least. She watched every single Instagram story I posted within minutes. She liked old photos from 2 years ago, unliking and reliking them to trigger a notification. She reacted with heart emojis to things that had nothing to do with her. It was subtle enough to deny if confronted, but obvious enough to notice. Then the messages started. Not directly to me at first, but to friends she knew would circle back. "She thinks you're pretending everything's fine. She said she hopes you're not doing this out of spite." Out of spite. Meanwhile, I was getting promoted at work. Not some massive, lottery-winning jump, but enough to matter. I had moved from the floor to a junior logistics manager role. It meant a salary bump. It meant benefits. It meant the long nights and quiet weekends were compounding into something tangible. I didn't tell anyone, especially not her. I let the results speak, and since the results were silent to the public, she was forced to speculate. Then one night my phone rang again. I answered without thinking, expecting it to be work. It was her, and she was crying. Real crying this time, not the polished, single-tier performance she used in arguments to win points. "I messed up," she said immediately, her voice thick. "I shouldn't have said those things. I was angry. I was scared." I stayed silent. I let her words hang in the air, unsupported. "You didn't even try to stop me," she continued, her voice shaking, shifting from sadness to accusation. "You just let me go." There it was, the truth, not regret for hurting me. Regret that I didn't chase. She wasn't sad that the relationship ended. She was sad that her ego didn't get the boost of me begging. "You walked away with someone else," I said calmly. "What was I supposed to do?" she sniffed. "Fight. Show me you cared." I closed my eyes and rubbed my temples. For 2 years I had been proving I cared in ways that didn't show up on Instagram. In patience, in planning, in paying off her debts, in sacrifice. None of that counted because it wasn't cinematic. "I did care," I said. "I just don't anymore." The line went quiet, dead silent. That is when she said the thing that changed everything. The thing that revealed her true nature. "I didn't think you'd actually become something without me." And suddenly, the tears made sense. She wasn't calling because she missed me. She was calling because she was afraid she had misjudged my value. She had sold her stock in Ryan Inc. right before the value went up, and now she was trying to buy back in at the old price. And for the first time, she wasn't looking down on me anymore. She was looking back at me. After that call, I thought she would back off out of shame. Instead, she doubled down. The next morning, she texted me like nothing dramatic had happened. "Good morning. Hope you slept okay." No apology for the breakdown, no acknowledgement of the insults. Just a reset button, like she could roll the conversation back to a save point where she still had access to me. I didn't reply. By that afternoon, her tone shifted again. "You don't have to ignore me. I'm just trying to be mature about this." Mature. From the woman who broke up with me on a sidewalk and walked off with a coworker. That evening, I ran into her by accident. It really was an accident. Same grocery store, same aisle, the pasta aisle. She looked surprised but not upset, more like she had been hoping for this collision. "Hey," she said, brushing her hair back, adjusting her coat. "You look different." "Yeah," I replied, grabbing a box of penne. "So do you," she laughed awkwardly. "I didn't expect to see you here." You live 3 blocks away, Chloe, I said. And I still eat food. She frowned at my lack of warmth, then smiled again, forcing the charm. I've been meaning to talk to you in person. I already knew where this was going. She stepped into my personal space. I didn't mean what I said that night about you having nothing. I was emotional, I was stressed. You meant it, I said, holding eye contact. You just didn't expect consequences. You thought you could say it, leave, and I would be waiting here like a dog when you came back. Her smile faded. I just think it's crazy how fast you've changed, she snapped, her defense mechanism kicking in. Like you're trying to prove something to the world. I am, I said, to myself. She crossed her arms, blocking the aisle. So what? Now you're too good to talk to me. You're too high value for your old friends. No, I said evenly. I'm just not available anymore. That word hit her harder than anything else. Available, it wasn't an insult. It was a status update. Available, she opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. For the first time, she didn't have a move ready. As I walked away toward the checkout, I felt it clearly. She wasn't trying to come back to me. She was trying to pull me back down to where she felt comfortable. If I was still the guy with nothing, her decision to leave was justified. But if I was winning, then she was just the girl who made a mistake, and Chloe couldn't live with being the one who made a mistake. That night she called again. I didn't answer. She called a second time, then a third. By the fourth call, I knew the dynamic had completely flipped. Chloe never chased like this. She was used to being the prize. She was used to people adjusting their lives around her moods, her timelines, her standards. I let it ring out. The next day, she showed up where she knew I would be, outside my gym. She was sitting in her car, windows down, sunglasses on, like she had planned it carefully enough to pretend it was casual. Wow, she said as I walked past, gym bag over my shoulder. You're really going to ignore me in person now. I stopped, mostly out of curiosity to see how far she would take this. What do you want, Chloe? She sighed dramatically and stepped out of the car. I just don't recognize you anymore. You used to be softer, you used to be nicer. There it was again, not concern, discomfort. She missed the version of me that was easy to manipulate. I'm just focused, I said. She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Focused on what? Proving me wrong. Is that what all this gym stuff is about? No, I replied, on not ending up back where I was. Her face tightened. You act like I ruined your life. You didn't, I said. You clarified it. That pissed her off. She stepped closer, invading my space again. You know that guy I left with, Mark, at least he lives. He doesn't hide behind 5-year plans and spreadsheets. He knows how to enjoy the moment. I met her eyes. Is that why you're here? Because it didn't work out with him. Her silence answered for her. She looked away. You think you're better than me now? She snapped, voice rising. No, I said calmly. I think I'm better for myself, she scoffed. You'll burn out, you always do. You're not built for this, Ryan. That one landed, but not how she expected. I burned out trying to keep up with your expectations, I said. Building my own life, this feels sustainable. She stared at me, jaw clenched, trying to decide whether to insult me or cry. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't think you'd actually level up without me. I stepped back toward the gym entrance. That's not my problem anymore. As I walked inside, past the front desk, I felt a weight lift. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me that stayed small so she could feel tall. And she was finally realizing that version wasn't coming back. After the gym incident, Chloe stopped pretending this was about checking in. She went straight to rewriting the story. A mutual friend sent me screenshots I didn't ask for. Chloe had been venting loudly on her close friend's story. According to her, I had changed overnight, let bitterness consume me, and was obsessed with proving her wrong. Obsessed. I was working, training, sleeping, and repeating. If that was obsession, it was the healthiest addiction I'd ever had. Then she escalated. She showed up at my apartment one evening. No warning, no call. Just knocking like she still had the right. When I opened the door, she looked me up and down like she was inspecting a used car for damage. So, this is it, she said, gesturing to my living room. This is the big transformation. I didn't invite her in. "What do you want, Chloe?" she scoffed. "I just wanted to see if you were actually doing better or just pretending for the internet." I leaned against the doorframe. She hesitated just for a second, her eyes darting around the clean, organized space. "You look fine." There was disappointment in her voice. That stung more than any insult. She wanted to see a mess. She wanted to see beer bottles and pizza boxes so she could feel justified in leaving. "You know," she continued, crossing her arms defensively, "I never said you couldn't succeed. I just didn't want to waste my best years waiting for it to happen." I nodded slowly. "And I didn't want to spend mine being reminded I wasn't enough." That hit harder than I expected. Her mouth opened, then closed. She switched tactics, getting aggressive. "You really think you're above me now just because you got a little promotion and joined a gym?" "No," I said evenly. "I think I'm beyond you." Her eyes flashed. "Careful. You're not as special as you think." I smiled. Not smug, not cruel, just calm. "Neither are you." That did it. She laughed bitterly, backing away. "You'll regret this. People like you always do. You build something and forget who was there before." I shook my head. "You weren't there for me, Chloe. You were there until you thought you could do better." Silence stretched between us in the hallway. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't think you'd actually win." I looked at her one last time. "I wasn't competing," I said. "I was surviving." I closed the door. On the other side of it, she finally realized something she never considered. She hadn't walked away from nothing. She had walked away from someone who was about to become something she could no longer reach. I thought closing the door would end it. It didn't. 2 nights later, my phone rang at 1:17 a.m. "Chloe," I almost didn't answer, almost, but something told me this call was different. The moment I picked up, I heard it, full-on sobbing. No control, no edge, just raw panic. "I can't do this," she cried. "Everything's falling apart." I stayed quiet. "That guy," she continued, voice breaking. "Mark, he's gone, just gone. He said I was too intense, too demanding. Can you believe that?" Yes, I could. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore," she said. "I feel stupid. I feel like I threw everything away. Everything. Not me, not us. Everything. You're the only one who ever believed in me," she said softly. "You always stayed. You always had a plan." There it was, not love, security. She missed the safety net. I finally spoke. "You didn't want a plan, Chloe. You wanted a shortcut." She gasped like I had slapped her. "That's not fair." "You left because I didn't look impressive yet," I said. "Now you're calling because I do. You're calling because your shortcut led to a dead end." Her crying slowed, replaced by shaky breathing. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "Please don't say you don't care." I leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. "I care," I said honestly, "just not the way you want. I care about you as a person, but I don't care about us anymore." Silence. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Just talk. I need to see you." This was the moment she thought would reset everything. The late-night breakdown, the vulnerability, the opening for me to step back into my old role as the fixer. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said. Her tone shifted instantly, fear creeping in. "Why?" "Because if I come save you," I replied, "you'll leave again the moment something shinier shows up. You don't want me, Chloe. You want to stop feeling like you lost." She started crying harder. "I wouldn't," she said. "I swear." I closed my eyes. "I believe you believe that right now," I said, "and that's the problem." She went quiet. "I hope you figure things out," I added, "but it won't be with me." When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, not shaking, not sad, just aware. A week ago she said I had nothing. Now she was calling because she had nothing. And I had become the thing she thought she could come back to. She was wrong, and she was starting to realize it. After that call, she didn't disappear. She unraveled. Mutual friends started reaching out, cautiously at first, then more directly. Chloe had been crying at parties, drinking too much, talking about me like I was a missed opportunity instead of a person she discarded. "She keeps saying she fumbled you," one friend told me. I didn't respond to any of it. Not because I was being cold, but because engaging would have put me right back into the role she wanted me in, the emotional anchor. Meanwhile, my life kept moving. The certification paid off. I was officially offered a better position, senior logistics coordinator. More responsibility, real upward momentum, nothing flashy but solid. The kind of progress Chloe used to mock because it didn't come with VIP wristbands. The irony wasn't lost on me. A few nights later, she texted again, different number. I saw you got promoted. I always knew you had it in you. I stared at the screen, feeling nothing but clarity. You didn't know, I typed. You just didn't want to wait, she replied instantly. I was young, I was scared. Everyone else was moving faster. That sentence summed her up better than any insult ever could. She didn't want growth, she wanted comparison. She was living her life looking sideways at everyone else's highlight reel, terrified she was falling behind. Can we meet? She asked. I just want to talk. I promise I won't ask for anything. That promise was the lie. I put the phone down and didn't answer. An hour later, another message came through. Please, I feel like I'm losing everything. I finally replied once. You didn't lose everything. You let go of something before it had time to grow. That doesn't mean it comes back when you panic. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. And for the first time since she walked away with another guy, I understood something completely. She didn't leave because I had nothing. She left because she couldn't stand being with someone whose success she couldn't take credit for. I didn't hear from Chloe for almost 2 weeks after that. No texts, no calls, no second-hand updates. For the first time since the night she walked away, she was actually gone. Then, on a random Tuesday evening, my phone rang. Her name. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. But something told me this was the last one. I answered. She didn't cry this time. I just wanted to hear your voice once, she said quietly. No edge, no attitude, just exhaustion. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I stayed silent. I've had a lot of time to think, she continued. About what I said, about how I left, about how I treated you like you were already a failure because you weren't finished yet. That word, finished, hit me harder than anything else she had said. I thought success was something you either had or didn't, she admitted. I didn't understand that some people are still building. I exhaled slowly. You didn't want to be there while I was building, I said. That was your choice. I know, she whispered, and I have to live with it. There was a pause, then she said the one thing I never expected to hear from her. I hope whoever ends up with you understands what they have. I closed my eyes. I hope you figure out what you're actually looking for, I replied. Not just what looks good next to you. She didn't argue, she didn't defend herself. I'm sorry, she said, for saying you had nothing. I answered honestly. I had less back then, I didn't have nothing. She let out a shaky breath. I see that now. We said goodbye after that. No promises, no lingering tension, just an ending that finally felt real. When the call ended, I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Because when she said, I can't spend my youth on someone who has nothing, what she really meant was, I don't want to invest unless I'm guaranteed a return. And when I said, I wish you well, I wasn't being passive. I was being free. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been told you weren't enough while you were still building your empire, hit that subscribe button for Story Sparks. Remember, your value isn't determined by who leaves. It's determined by what you build after they're gone. Keep building.